Yeah, welcome back to Fusioneers. This is our last video on how to make a quarter. We're using the mirror method, which is our fifth and final way to make a quarter. I'm sure there are probably additional ones, but I think we've pretty much beat the quarter to death at this point. So let's go ahead and make a new design, file, new design, Command S, which is save, and then we're going to name it quarter mirror. Make sure it's selected. All right, so if you haven't been here before, this is a series of videos on how to make a quarter, and if you need the PDFs, they're available at our SKOOL community, which is available at skool.com/Fusioneers. So check us out if you're interested in that. If you need the design files for the quarter, they are available on the community. So let's go ahead and get started designing this mirror quarter. So just want to reiterate again, if this is your first video, this is not the best way to make a quarter. This is just a way to make a quarter. It's just to emphasize different ways of kind of achieving the same end result. So let's get started. First thing I always like to do, make sure your origin is showing, and then click create sketch. And then we're going to select this bottom plane here. And just want you to think a second about how you could make a quarter that you could mirror, or basically make a mirror image of, or flip over a line of symmetry to create a quarter. So we're going to actually use another feature. We could use the center diameter circle, and that's probably the most logical thing to use, but I actually want to use a little bit different option, and that's going to be the arc. And specifically, I want to use the center point arc. So the way this one works is you select the center point first. So we're going to make sure that we're attached to the origin there. And then we're going to draw up, and then we're going to draw around. All right. So this is just a way to make arcs. You can make arcs of different lengths and diameters. And this is just another way to do essentially the same thing you would do with the circle. And what we're going to do is just make a half circle. And the next step would be to connect these two parts, or these, basically give it a side, right? So the way we'll do that is click align, and to make sure that we snap there to that point, and then draw that down to the other point. And I'm actually just going to kind of intentionally mess up just in case anyone else does. So I accidentally put that not in the right spot, and then say I actually drew this kind of like that. So let's just go practice constraining everything. I think because we started at the origin, it does stay centered at the origin, so you can't really move it side to side. So that's useful, but this has a little bit of work to do if you can see that. So it doesn't really matter what sequence you go in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just connect these two. Coincident, I'm going to click here, and then click here. So now we have these lines coincident. We made a full circle, and now we want this to line kind of in the middle. So like I showed you in another video, I really like horizontal vertical. So click on the line. Now we have it horizontal and vertical, but you'll see now if we click escape, you can kind of drag this and make it whatever you want. So we want this to be coincident with this origin point, since everything's kind of centered around that if we're trying to make a half circle. So go ahead and coincident this with this. And so now our line is kind of fixed. Click escape. The only thing left now is to dimension the radius or diameter of our circle. So if we click D on the keyboard, which is our dimension shortcut, click here. This is a radius again. So I'm just going to put in the full diameter, 24.3 divided by 2. Enter. And that automatically calculates what the radius is. So again, if you haven't seen other videos, that's a really easy trick to do if you're trying to find the center of something. You can also use midpoint in some situations, but especially for radius or radii, you can just say whatever the diameter is and just type in divided by 2 into Fusion, and it can figure it out. So now we have our semicircle. So we're going to click finish sketch, or hemicircle, I guess. So the next step would be to go ahead and extrude this out. So we're going to click extrude. It automatically identified what profile we're trying to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home view. And now we're going to extrude up 1.8 millimeters, which is the height of the quarter. And so now we have a perfect half circle, or half cylinder, I guess. And the way that we're going to make our quarter now is just to mirror this body using this flat surface here. So if we click create, mirror, we can select the body, and then we can select the mirror plane, which is going to be this. You can also select this plane here. It doesn't really matter. And now we have our preview and we have join selected, which is what we want. Click OK. Now we have our quarter again. So this is the fifth and final way to make a quarter. We'll be graduating onto bigger and better things in the next couple of videos, but hopefully you got something out of this. I tried to kind of put in some useful tips and not bore you to death with making quarters in different ways, but I just thought it was a good way to introduce people to some different ways that you can model, and hopefully you can come back to these and use them in more complex designs, some of the tips that I've shared. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.